Hi, readers. Mrs. Burke here. So, I wanted to show you a map called the Carta Marina that dates back to the 16th century. And if you look closely in this map, you will see that off the coast of Europe, there are dragons and monsters and all different kinds of sea creatures in the ocean. And cartographers, map makers, used dragons and sea monsters as symbols for danger, for dangerous areas, to keep people close to land and not to go out on the water because that area was dangerous. So they would use dragons and sea creatures and monsters. One map even wrote directly on the map, Hic sunt dracones, which means in Latin, here be dragons. So map makers knew that dragons could be a metaphor or a symbol for trouble, for danger. And in our books, dragons can also be metaphorical for our characters. They can actually be the actual troubles that our characters are facing, right? And some are literal, but a lot actually symbolize these deeper conflicts for our characters, all right? And the strongest readers, they pay attention to see how those conflicts, how those dragons develop into themes in their story. So we're going to revisit an old favorite, the Paper Bag Princess. And we're going to ask ourselves, what other dragons does Elizabeth face? Because we all know she faces the actual dragon. But are there any other conflicts or troubles does she actually have besides the actual dragon? So I'm going to flip to our YouTube Paper Bag Princess. And obviously in the beginning, right, she's really in love with Prince Ronald, who doesn't seem to really like her at all. And that to me seems like one of the immediate conflicts, right? That he doesn't even really like her the way she likes him. And then while her immediate problem is that the dragon comes and smashes her castle and steals Prince Ronald, and she's left homeless, right? She then defeats the dragon, conquers him, and then goes to rescue Prince Ronald. So it seems like those are some very simple problems that she has easily conquered. But if we look deeper, we can see some metaphors here in the Paper Bag Princess, because we know that this story is way more complicated than just some princess defeating a dragon. We notice character change in our character Elizabeth, right? And we see how Elizabeth changes in the beginning of the story. She obviously cared about Ronald. He's kind of turning his nose up at her and doesn't really feel the same. There's some unrequited love there. And then in the end, when she outsmarts the dragon, clearly more intelligent than Ronald, Ronald then looks at her and says, Elizabeth, you are a mess. You smell like ashes, your hair is all tangled, and you are wearing a dirty old paper bag. Come back when you are dressed like a real princess. So now Elizabeth is faced with this problem. This prince who she loved is actually monstrously cruel. On this page, to me, Hic sunt dracones. Who is the trouble? Ronald. Prince Ronald, you are the trouble. You are the true dragon in this story, right? And so in the end, Elizabeth makes a wise choice. She says, your clothes are really pretty and your hair is very neat. You look like a real prince, but you are a bum. They didn't get married after all, right? So Elizabeth comes to the realization that she didn't need Prince Ronald, right, to be happy. She's plenty happy relying on her own inner strength. And to me, one of the themes in this story is that it's really important to make wise choices about our relationships, right? So if you look closer at this story, you see that there is not just one dragon, there are two when we look metaphorically, right? And we realize that a dragon can be a symbol for other problems and conflicts for our characters. If we think as well about our own lives, there's plenty of dragons that we face internally, right? So we just saw Elizabeth face an external conflict, both the dragon and Ronald. But if we ourselves think about what kind of dragons do we face? I know personally one of my dragons right now is my temper. Right now, I feel like I've been getting really, really mad at my kids over maybe little things that I shouldn't get so mad at. And I have to learn to take a deep breath when I want to yell. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to work on. That's definitely one of my dragons right now, right? That I'm very cooped up. My kids are getting on my last nerve and I'm starting to lose my temper, right? That is one of my dragons that I'm currently facing. Okay. So here, that's what we would like for you to try to type in. What are some of those conflicts that you're currently facing, right? Is it an internal or an external conflict? And then last, in your book club book, write about the dragons your characters face and the lessons these events are teaching your character. Okay, so here that's where you're going to prepare for your book club conversation that you're going to have tomorrow, right? So thinking about not just who is the enemy, who we would think would be the dragon, but really what are the main sources of conflict for your character? And try to think metaphorically and push yourself to think, are there themes that your character is learning through these conflicts? Okay. On our next slide here, these are things that we're going to use tomorrow in our book club. So you can just look over them, but they're going to be things that we read over tomorrow before our book club begins. Okay. So fantasy readers, today we took a look at dragons and we saw how we can conquer our metaphorical dragons, right? Our conflicts, both internal and external. And when we look at how we react to those conflicts, oftentimes we can learn lessons and themes. So try this with your book, and I will see you tomorrow.